Ladies and gentlemen, we are live as this is the main event you've all been waiting for. Brought to you by Exonius, the cybersecurity asset management company. It's time!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Cloud Security Podcast. I just realized I don't think I can hear my own audio, so I just wanted to make sure that people can hear me speak. But while we confirm that, I just wanted to welcome everyone over here who are coming in for the first time. This is a weekly podcast. We talk about cloud security and cybersecurity topics. And if you are someone who is interested in threat analysis or threat analyst, let me just rephrase that. If you're someone who's interested in threat analyst, this is the episode for you. And I just want to make sure, yes, my audio is not available for some reason. I want to quickly check what happened to my audio. Hello. Yeah, it's already there. Anyways, I'll let you confirm. If you guys can hear me, just drop in a comment over here saying, hey, you can hear me. But I want to start today by introducing my friend who's going to come in a very... Let's just say that he has an interesting journey into cybersecurity. When I first spoke to him, I was like, oh, yes, this is the guy that I want to bring on the show. And this is the guy that I would definitely want the audience to hear from as well. And I have my music queued in for him. Let me just give you 1 second. This is for the cool. Hey, welcome, man. Hey. Welcome. How's it going?
Going pretty good. Thanks for having me.
It's pretty awesome, man. I think... for some reason, I can't hear my own audio onto the YouTube video as it goes on, but I'm sure we'll get to it, man. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming in and cheers, man. Thanks for coming to Virtual Coffee with Ashish.
Cheers, man.
Thanks for coming in. For people who may not know who Jay is, could you tell us a bit about yourself, man?
Yeah, my name is Abyssala Dayspring Johnson, by usually go by Day, and I am a cyber threat analyst. I'm also a college student as well as a content creator on YouTube. I also post content on Instagram and Twitter as well. So yeah, that's a brief summary about me.
Wow, you definitely get pretty brief, man. But I was gonna ask, so in terms of thank you for people who are confirming that you can hear me. That's pretty awesome. I guess, what's your path in cybersecurity, man? Because you currently do multiple things at the moment within cybersecurity as well. But what was your path into cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I got into cybersecurity through an internship. So I started as a cybersecurity analyst intern, like right after my freshman year of college, which was last year. I was in that internship for about 6-7 months, and then from there I became a SOC analyst, which was a couple of months, 3-4 months, and then I transitioned over to my current threat analyst role, which I've been at for about 3 months now. So that's kind of like a brief summary of my journey so far.
Awesome. So, in this, I guess we're talking about threat analyst skills today. And for people who may not even know what threat analyst is or what kind of a role that is, what does a threat analyst do, I guess, for a company?
So a threat analyst, can be so many things. It can be it could generally be a security analyst. It could be a SOC analyst if you're working in a SOC. But currently, for me as a threat analyst, my role entails detecting, analyzing, and remediating threats for my organization or for the client I'm working with. So it involves so many things. So I could be detecting, looking through logs, looking through antivirus software, EDRs, analyzing phishing emails, and analyzing authentication activities. Just everything that is a form of threat to the organization I'm assigned to. That's what I'm going to be doing every single day.
Right. And basically, because you mentioned you had some SOC experience before as well, right? So how is that different from SOC again?
The way my current organization is moving, they're moving towards something called an advanced fusion center. So it's a little different from like how the SOC works. It's kind of almost the same thing, but it's more so having a really, really tight combination between the SOC team as well as the team from the other organization. So there's a lot of like collaboration compared to a SOC where it might just be like the SOC is simply focused on just the organization, but we're working together with the other organization with their security team as well. So it's a lot more collaboration. It's like the name says, it's fusion between multiple teams. So yeah, that's kind of the difference.
Oh, right. So, I guess why is SOC important for a company then? I guess I guess both SOC and threat analyst position
Mhm.
sounds like um, it's a lot of defending. So,
Yes.
why is it important for a company?
So the SOC is a security operations center. So that's like, it's a center specifically for security. So a SOC is, mainly focused on the security aspect of the organization, right? So for example, like, software people can be working on software and all that stuff, and they don't necessarily have like a specific like group for them, but because like security is like so important for the organization and security covers so many things, so like the SOC has to be it might have its own specific team, have its own specific room or specific building for that specific activity, because it's so much stuff that the SOC has to cover, right? So you're covering the entirety of the organization. You're monitoring security, and some SOCs have like a lot of layers. So you have the first layer, which is just like detecting, just like monitoring for threats. Like if you see anything that is an anomaly, like, and you analyze it and you think it's a threat, you can escalate to the next level, which may be a tier 2, which maybe like might be an incident responder, right? So incident responder, if there's something that is malicious, can probably escalate to like a digital forensics analyst. So it might have different layers depending on the level of the threat or whatever is coming in. So the reason why it's really important is because like a lot of times organization might have their own in-house cybersecurity team, but they might not have enough infrastructure or the enough manpower to have enough oversight over their entire security structure. So a lot of times organizations usually outsource to like MSSPs for that SOC oversight for the organization. So it's really important, because having that just like a specific and dedicated team or dedicated small organization in your company or outside of your company just for security is going to really help in terms of like offloading the work of your internal security team or offloading the work of your IT staff. So that's really what really makes the SOC important.
That's pretty awesome. And I think to your point about, I guess there's only so much a company can do as well by, I guess by making the best firewall, making the best application, but on an ongoing basis, just by nature of being on the internet, just so many people trying to attack and probably testing all those YouTube tutorials on how to hack a website on your website. So you probably need some way to defend that as well, right?
Yeah, I might have to hire a SOC specifically for that.
Yeah, because it's funny because a lot of people kind of forgot about the fact that, hey, it's actually a lot more involved. And if people are thinking, why do I need one? Probably need at least some form of it. Probably not like the title, I guess. But so now at least we know, since there is an importance for I guess for the SOC role.
Yeah.
How easy is it to get in? Because I imagine we have a lot of people over here who are probably starting off for the first time in cybersecurity. And one of the things that comes up quite often is SOC analyst. And I kind of feel from what I'm hearing from you, SOC analyst and threat analyst probably are in that similar bucket, just a different kind of collaboration level. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, is that a good entry role into cybersecurity in your opinion?
I guess it really would depend, but I think it depends, because I think my entry level role was entry level enough for me. I don't think I would have thrived well enough going directly into a SOC analyst role, because like it definitely requires some level of knowledge and experience in certain areas of cybersecurity. But I still think it's a good entry level role if you do find one that's gonna take you on.
Right. Okay. And do you reckon, is there like a high bar to get into this kind of role, I guess?
It depends on the organization. So if you're like in an organization that requires a lot of like skills as a SOC analyst, so for example, if you're going to be doing like analyzing logs, maybe doing incident response or doing digital forensics, there might be a higher level of a higher barrier of entry. But if you're just essentially just like monitoring and just doing basic analysis, there might be a lower barrier of entry. So it really depends on the organization, what the organization requires, and what the team requires of the person. So yeah, it depends.
Oh, so would you say, I mean, I guess that does, so if it depends on the organization, then like, I guess what some of the skills that you reckon can make a threat analyst or a SOC analyst successful? Like what kind of skills you would expect them to have for them to have a successful role?
Yeah. So I think the basis of everything is analysis, right? So being able to look at a situation, and in this case a threat, and being able to determine if this is actually a false positive or true positive, if something that is actually going to be actually looking at an event and seeing if it's going to possibly turn into an incident, right? So that's the first skill. But I think overall, there's a lot of like log analysis. So you're going to be looking at logs a lot. You're going to be looking at what happened and trying to draw a timeline of what happened. So being able to analyze logs with like SIEMs, maybe Splunk, Curator, Graylog, whatever SIEM you use. Also network analysis, depending on the organization. Some organizations allow you have access to network packet capture. So being able to analyze network packets for different possible indicators of compromise is also really going to be important. Also understanding of antivirus, EDRs, and looking at things happening on the host and seeing if those things are malicious or what they could possibly lead to compromise, or there's already been a compromise on the host. And then email header analysis, like phishing analysis, because you're going to be analyzing a lot of emails a lot of times, because that's a really major aspect of that's a major security issue, because there are a lot of emails going on all the time and people are getting phished all the time. So being able to analyze email headers for potential for malicious activity is going to be really, really important. But I think that's like a entry-level baseline. So having an understanding of log analysis, SIEMs, EDRs, antivirus, and email analysis is I think the bare minimum of skills for that entry-level kind of SOC analyst or threat analyst role.
Interesting. You might want to clarify what an EDR is, but before you say that, clarify EDR. I just want to say I think we have about 50 people who are tuning in. So if anyone has any question, feel free to ask them on the comment or onto the video. I think you should have the option to ask a question on the live chat on YouTube, as well as on LinkedIn. You should be able to type your question. But EDR, because you mentioned email and EDR, because a lot of people who are starting off in cybersecurity would not even know what an EDR is. What is an EDR?
Yeah. So EDR stands for endpoint detection and response. So essentially what EDRs do is they are like agents installed on different endpoints, different hosts. So it could be a server, it could be a normal device, your laptop that you use for work. So you might have a EDR agent on that. And me as a SOC analyst or threat analyst, I can essentially see things that are happening on the host. So in terms of like detection and response, the EDR detects and possibly responds to potential threats on that host. So for example, if a user downloads, let's say a malicious file, and that file, starts a process that's malicious, maybe some kind of like, kind of malicious, whatever it is, right? The EDR detects that, right? So it sees, okay, the user downloaded this file and it spawned this process, and it can take the decision to either maybe block the process or to allow the process or to terminate the process. So that's kind of like a base level definition of what an EDR does, and it's a little different from an antivirus, but it has a little bit of similarities with the antivirus as well.
Right. Oh, so I guess as an entry-level SOC person, and you kind of like touched on a few things that they can expect as day one job, I guess. Where working, maybe you could be working in a SIEM like a Splunk, or you could be looking at analyzing logs. So it sounds like it's a very specific kind of person who probably looks at attention to detail, but doesn't really mind mining through, I guess, mountain of logs to find that threat for the organization. Would that be kind of like a apt description for the kind of responsibility someone can expect when they join into an entry-level role? Or like, what would you say would be some of the responsibilities they can expect to have as an entry-level SOC analyst?
So like I say, like it's usually the first line of defense. So you're essentially looking out for, because you usually have like your SIEM or your SOAR device or your SOAR software going to be giving you all these alerts because based off of detections, right? So there's specific rules set. So if a rule is matched, you get an alert based off of that. So you started analyzing those alerts. So I say base level is pretty much like monitoring for those alerts, and then when you get those alerts, and then you analyze for them and see you analyze the alerts and see if they're just basic events that just like triggered on the device, or if this is something that is malicious that could potentially turn into an incident and could escalate to beyond that.
So you reckon? Actually, that's a good point now, because what I hear this and I'm going, actually, how similar is threat analyst and SOC analyst? But I also feel actually, sorry, quickly, I've got a question from Chom here, who's been good evening, Chom. Would a SOC analyst be digesting real-time logs or historic logs?
I guess the digesting part of it falls on the hands of the engineer. So like it's their role to kind of normalize the logs, aggregate the logs, do all of that. But the role of the analyst is to analyze the logs. So I guess digesting if it means like transferring or like doing the working how the logs are being aggregated or normalized. That's usually the work of an engineer rather than an analyst.
Oh, right. So there's an engineer before, I guess probably with a bit more seniority. They are the ones who are configuring the logs for you. And
Yes.
I guess as a process of that, the analyst is basically hunting for threats within those logs that's been configured.
Yes.
So the engineer may choose to give you, I guess, historic logs because you're probably responding to an incident which has already happened, or you
Yeah.
could be looking at live logs.
Yes. So yeah, the engineer's job is like the configuration, the like how the passage of how the logs are coming from all the different devices, setting like different thresholds. So like if let's say like we need to know when a user has had 25 failed login attempts in a certain amount of time. So the engineer's job is to go into the system and create that, whatever code it is or whatever configuration it is that will fire off that alert, that we as threat analysts or SOC analysts will start analyzing. So that's, really what they do.
Right.
And beyond.
Sorry, I was going to say, because I think that's an interesting point, because an engineer decides which application kind of is coming in, and you at any given point in time, the logs you get looking at could be from any application, right? It could be one, I'm just making it up, but one could be from Facebook, one could be from LinkedIn, one could be from YouTube, and they may have their own languages. Or is it easy to kind of like differentiate, or does threat have a pattern that you can look out for?
The logs are usually from the different hosts or from the different devices. So from the servers, from the firewalls, from the IDSs, from the hosts, all of that. So that's where the logs come from. So based off of those logs can then contain if a user is probably visiting Facebook or user is visiting LinkedIn, or the logs could contain authentication if the user is is logging into their device or is logging into maybe like a tool they use for work. So the actual logs are coming from the devices. So logs usually have different segments. So for Splunk, for example, it's usually the index, the source type, and I believe the host. I think those are the three main things. So the host has all of the logs of activity going on, what the user is doing. So if the user is logging into their device or logging like authentication to a domain controller, or maybe signing into their cloud account, or accessing Facebook, or downloading a file, all of those things are the logs on the host, which are also part of the logs that Splunk or whatever tool you're using is going to aggregate. So it's usually the host logs, and those host logs contain all of the other activities to maybe LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever website the user is visiting.
Yep, and the reason I use that example is because I have a SOC team that works for me as well, and I think it's really interesting how like the thinking is so different compared to, say, a blue team versus someone who's looking for a threat. Whereas a blue team is kind of trying to go, hey, how do I best secure this application? Whereas a SOC team is actively hunting for threats and basically, hey, this is something happening right now, someone needs to respond to it. So quite a collaborative role as well, man. So thanks for sharing that. And thanks for the question as well, Chom. Hopefully that answers your question, man. Now, we kind of spoke about, I guess, what does a SOC analyst do and what kind of skills make them successful. and seems like it's a great role for an entry level person as well, and you can graduate onto an engineer and so on. Are there any certs? Because I imagine there are people over here who may have little or no experience in IT, maybe still in uni or sophomore year as well. What are some of the options to get into a SOC analyst kind of a role? Like, is there internships, or do you just go straight jump into a SOC analyst role?
So like there are different ways. I mean, I started my career as an intern, and I think my internship kind of gave me a really baseline, like a really great entry into security. So as an intern, I was essentially just on a daily basis, like 70 to 90% of what I was doing was just analyzing emails. Like I could, in a day, I could analyze like 40, 50, 60 and more emails every single day. So that
Wow.
really got me like into the I guess into the mindset of analyzing stuff. So like so I would analyze emails and then do a little bit of like I would say I wouldn't really call it engineering, but since I was working in-house, I was working in the organization, not like being outsourced. I was able to like make decisions about like writing rules that determine like flow of traffic, maybe like firewall rules or email flow rules and different things like that. So I'll say like that gave me a really good entry, like the skills that I needed, the basic of the skills that I needed. But I'll say like graduating into my second role, which was a SOC analyst role, I started learning more about SIEMs, because that's usually a huge chunk of what you're doing. You're usually on the glass looking at the SIEM. So I started learning about Splunk, and learning about like a bunch of other things. So I was mainly focused on Splunk because I specifically wanted to work in a Splunk environment. So I'll say find a way to learn a SIEM, right? You don't have to like take a expensive course or like do anything at outrageous. Splunk has a free fundamentals one course which you can take for free, and if you want to get the certification, it's like a little over $100. But learn how to use a SIEM. They have a free license that you can download a Splunk virtual machine into your into a VMware or VirtualBox and start learning how to use a SIEM. That's one skill that's really important. And I'll say like in terms of certifications, before I get into like actual skills and tools, I'll say in terms of certifications, I think having a foundational and like basic understanding of networking is really important. I think a lot of people overlook that, and I think a great way to have those like fundamental networking skills are through the CompTIA Network Plus. I think it covers like the basics of networking that you need for security, right? So people go to the CCNA, that's your choice, but I think personally the CompTIA Network Plus covers the basics of networking you need. So understanding like your protocols, understanding ports and how all of them work, how they could potentially be exploited is just really important before then moving on into the security aspect. So for the basics of security, your Security Plus. So Security Plus gives you a really wide overview of how security works, from different tools to different processes. It's really wide. So having that overview, like that oversight of security through the Security Plus is the next stage of that. Then I think after the Security Plus, it's like left to the individual, because I don't really like to over recommend certifications, especially in terms of like getting into the first role, because people just go and get certifications and don't really have practical knowledge to show like the skills they have or the skills that are applicable for the job. So I think once you get the Network Plus and Security Plus, before getting into more certifications, labs are really important. So like finding a way to learn about the things you're going to be doing at your job as a threat analyst or SOC analyst is the next thing you want to do. So like, once again, learning about SIEMs, learning about maybe like vulnerability scanning, just like doing labs to show, that you have the knowledge of this is going to be important, because although labs don't necessarily always translate to exactly what you see in the real life, it still shows that you have some basic knowledge to do the basics of the job, which someone else can train you up from that. They can build off of the basic skills you have. So finding labs to like learn those skills is going to be important, and then from there on you can start building your skills in other areas. You can get more certifications, maybe like CYSA Plus. You can learn maybe offensive stuff through like the HAPT. If you're up for it, you can go for like offensive security certifications or like the other e-learning security. But I think starting off, like your first 3-6 months should be focusing on the basics of networking and security. So like Network Plus, Security Plus, and then labbing your way, and then doing projects and just labs, and networking as well. So yeah, it's so much that covers getting that first role.
So if I were to summarize, Network Plus, Security Plus after that, because Network Plus gives you that networking background, Security Plus gives you that overall security background. Then start building your lab, some kind of a Splunk a fundamental certificate? Because is there like a free trial version they can use to build a lab to analyze logs, or is there like I mean, what do you recommend for building your own lab? Because that's in itself is a big topic, because it could be a pen testing lab, there could be a networking lab. Like, what kind of lab are folks creating?
So like I personally have like my own lab that I actually, in my YouTube I have a whole playlist of how I built out my whole lab. So for example, like for Splunk gives you a free license for I think 30 or 60 days. But if you apply for a developer's license, I think it lasts a lot longer than that. So definitely like go do your research about that. But I have a playlist where I have like a full a full on lab that is like specifically designed for detection, which I'm still going to be improving on. But I think the main aspects of the lab are Splunk, Security Onion, PSS firewall, and then some host machines, some Windows machines, and then on the other side I have like a Kali Linux machine. So that's like a base level lab, but you can always like design a lab based off of what you want to learn. You don't have to like design it according to like what you see online. If there's something specific you want to learn, just build a lab around it. Like a lot of tools are open source, and if you can't find an open source, you can find an alternative of the tool that you can use to learn about that tool. So yeah, there are different ways you could go about a lab.
Interesting. And a lot of times I get asked a question about, I guess, do you have to be a technical person to be in a SOC role?
Yes, you definitely have to be like, you definitely have to understand, you have to be technical enough to like, see something and, know what exactly is going on. So like if you see, you have to be technical, like regardless, like you have to understand like authentication, you have to understand networking, you have to understand like a bunch of things. So yeah, definitely have to be technical.
I think that's why kind of your early recommendation about Network Plus and Security Plus, that kind of helps build. Because I'm thinking about people who are coming from a non-technology background and they want to transfer onto cybersecurity. Like, those sound like great certificates to kind of start building the foundational pieces for networking, then your security foundation, and then getting into a lab. I'll definitely check out people to kind of, I guess, check out a YouTube video as well, which definitely want to cover in this episode as well. So we've kind of spoken about what the SOC role does, what kind of skills are required. We also spoke about the fact that, okay, so these are some of the certs that you can use to get into that path and what the responsibility could be. We even explained what EDR is. And we've been talking about SIEM. And for people who are, I guess, watching and want to Google this SIEM, what's the easiest way to explain what a SIEM is to people who may not even know what that is?
So SIEM is like security, information and event management. I think, yeah, that's what it is. So what a SIEM essentially does is it aggregates, normalizes, and it's like a central point for all of your logs, right? So in an organization, you might have like thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of hosts or servers or devices, and having the oversight, being able to like analyze what is going on those different devices could be really, really hard, right? It will be, if something happened, it will be hard to like just like immediately go to that device and start looking at the logs that are in that device. So like the SIEM essentially aggregates all of the logs from all of those devices into one central point and gives you different kinds of correlation abilities. So like, for example, like you might see like communication between this device and this device, what was happening, how long it took. So it's essentially like a collection of all. It helps you collect all of the logs that are going on in in your organization, and all of your devices and all of that. So it gives you it gives you that oversight in just one specific area, rather than having to like go into like each device, every single time, which you can still do if you need to.
All right, and I think for a lot of people may call it a log aggregator as well, but I think it's pretty interesting, right? Because I wonder how many people, I think with the 50 odd people that are listening right now, and if they have a question, I'll be curious to know how many knew about what a SIEM is and how many are trying to identify themselves as, I want to get into SOC Analyst. Now they've heard about certificates. But are there any soft skills as well that require? I know we touched on the fact that you definitely need to be technical. You definitely have a certificate path that you can go through. What kind of soft skills are required for this kind of a role?
Yeah, there are definitely important soft skills. I think the The two important ones are communication and documentation. So communication in terms of like the fact that you're going to be interfacing with, you're going to be communicating with different people. So if you're in a SOC, you might be communicating with your teammates, you might be communicating with your manager, you might be communicating with other teams, other security teams, or other non-security teams that are like IT team or networking team, depending on like what your role is. So you're going to be communicating with different people. You could be communicating with users that are not even technical. So being able to communicate properly with each person you're dealing with, using the right terminologies and properly communicating with them. For example, if you're communicating with a user about like like when I was working as an intern, I had to communicate with users sometimes about, oh, this is what you did wrong. Like, when you saw this email link, you should have known that this was definitely malicious. And when you clicked it, you should have seen that this is definitely not from Microsoft. So being able to like communicate with a user like that, or maybe communicating with your teammate, like, about whatever it is you're working on, or communicating with a non-security staff, maybe like the network administrator, or maybe the server administrator, right? Like if you're having to communicate with them about, hey, we need to be able to have this capability on this server, or we need to be able to we need to make these changes on this server so that we can have so capabilities. Being able to communicate with them properly, either technically or normally, however it is. Also being able to communicate with management. So depending on whatever level of you are in the SOC, being able to like communicate to management, maybe the needs, or maybe giving them a better understanding of what their expectations should be of the SOC analyst is also going to be important. So being able to properly communicate based off the situation you are is going to be really important. Also, as a SOC analyst, you might be into incident response. So if, for example, if your company gets breached or the company you're working with gets breached, being able to properly communicate in that stress situation is also going to be really, really important, because you're supposed to be pacifying those people. So if you're the kind of person that's gonna like get them more anxious, especially if they just like are going through a security breach, that might be bad for them. So being able to properly communicate in that situation is going to be important. And then documentation, this comes in different ways. So like being like when after your analysis is based off of where you are, it's important to kind of show what you did that got that that what you did during your analysis, and giving it enough information for somebody to look at it maybe later on and understand what you did, just to protect yourself and to protect the organization. Because if you analyze something as, say, like a false positive and it turns out to be a true positive, if your documentation or your notes do not show enough information to kind of determine how you got to where you are, that could potentially be an issue for you. Also, like having documentation, like based of your organization, there might be tools or processes or different things that need to have documentation so that you can easily use that for yourself or for a newer analyst, or to show management, or to show anybody that needs to see that the documentation. Having those skills to properly document stuff is really, really going to be important as well.
And that I can definitely tell you, documentation doesn't stop even at the SOC level; it continues even at the leadership level as well. So great skill, man. Thanks for sharing that as well. I guess we kind of spoken about broad category, and if people have questions about, I guess specifically about what kind of challenges they have, would be great to hear from them as well. So feel free to drop them into the live chat. From an interview perspective, I know we touched on the whole, I guess, certificates. We touched on like what kind of skills we required, building a lab. Like, are those kind of things helpful in an interview to kind of help stand out from all the other candidates who may be applying for the job? Or what are some of the things people could be doing, even, I guess, today, if they wanted to, even if they don't have a job as a SOC analyst right now? What are some of the things they could be doing especially in a remote world that we live in now? What are some of the skills that they could be building towards? Like, they signed up for the certificate. What's something extra that they could be doing to stand out? Because nowadays it sounds like there's a lot of competition to get into even a job interview these days.
Yes, so everything 1000%. You need to do everything, because like there's, like you said, there's a lot of competition, right? So like, if, for example, like you have just like the Security Plus, and let's say no, because let's put a scenario as every single person is applying for an entry level SOC analyst role, right? They don't have any previous experience. Let's say probably have bachelor's degree in whatever cybersecurity or non cybersecurity, no previous experience, right? but every single person has a security plus. So what exactly makes you different from the other person, right? So it's like you have to have something that separates you from everybody else, right? So if everybody has a security plus, what do you have that's more than security plus? Okay, let's say you have a security plus and a cybersecurity degree, right? Okay, so a lot of other people have a security plus and cybersecurity degree and a bunch of other certifications. What exactly makes you different from those people? Okay, let's say you have a lab, right? You have a lab where you do all of that stuff. Do you document what you did in your lab? Do you have a place to show, the different things you've done, let's say like a blog or whatever it is like you use to document your processes or like your analysis? Like let's say you analyze the packet capture for indicator of compromise. Do you have a something to show how you went through that analysis and how you came to your conclusion? Let's say you have that. A lot of people have that as well. Like there's other people that have labs as well. So what else makes you different? Do you do CTFs? Do you participate in CTFs, online CTFs? There are different kinds of CTFs that you can participate in. That's also great. A lot of people have that as well. But I think what really those are different things that you can do that can help you get to interview. But I think people should start putting themselves out there more, because like getting the interview, like applying to jobs and everything, that's definitely a way of approaching like the interview scenario, trying to get an interview, trying to get your first role. But I think putting yourself out there more and showing your skills and your capabilities is the next stage that you need. This what you need to differentiate yourself from everybody else, right? Because everybody's doing the same thing. Literally everybody's putting in the same amount of effort, doing the same certifications, doing the same degrees, even doing the same labs. Everybody's doing the same thing. But I think putting yourself out there, being visible, to the employer, your potential employer, is really what will set you apart, right? And doing this and being visible in a way that shows your true passion, not in a way of like trying to not being fake about it, but being truly passionate about this stuff and making yourself visible. So in terms of visibility, how do you do that? Like there's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, right? I've gotten I won't say job offer, but job opportunities through Twitter by sharing what I was doing on Twitter. So like sharing what you're doing, like engaging with the community, engaging with people that are in the community, sharing your resources, sharing what you can do through a blog, through YouTube, showing on LinkedIn is is most likely going to get you farther, get you an interview, rather than just like doing the same thing that everybody's doing. And also everybody's also sharing their resources on LinkedIn, they're sharing their resources on Twitter. What are you doing to make your difference? So I think you can do everything. You can do the certifications, you can do the degree, you can do the labs, you can do the CTFs, but you always have to think of something that's going to make you different, and not the exact same thing as everybody else, because everybody is doing the same thing. So always try to find something that makes you different from everybody else, that makes you different from all of the other candidates. Think about the fact that if I'm able to do this, like what can I do differently that makes me stand out, that makes me different from everybody else that has the same skills, the same experience, the same education, the same certifications, the same lab, the same CTF as me? What exactly is it that makes me different from everybody else?
Would you say like having some kind of a cloud certification? Because I don't know how much are you seeing of cloud, and this being cloud security podcast, I'm curious, how much is cloud kind of coming up in your day to day?
A lot, like a whole lot. Like I analyze a lot of cloud logs on a day-to-day basis. So having an understanding of cloud is definitely going to be important, because like these days, like companies are usually having this kind of hybrid environment. So you're definitely going to be analyzing Azure logs or AWS logs or both. So having an understanding of either side or both sides is going to be really important. So I started as an intern, I worked a lot with Azure. So I learned a lot about Azure, and then moving on to my other roles, I kind of started learning more about AWS as well. So Azure and AWS, like having one is great, but even having both is even better. I think once you have a knowledge of one, you can easily adapt to the other one, especially from a security perspective, not like from a cloud engineer perspective, but analyzing the logs that are coming from the cloud provider. It's having the baseline knowledge of the cloud provider, maybe like your Azure fundamentals and AWS cloud practitioner, enough to understand the logs that are flowing into your SIEM from the cloud provider, is definitely going to be important for you.
Awesome. And I think Tom just asked the same question, which I just like had the same thing over here as well. Tom's asking, I'm exactly the example you're speaking of, cybersec degree, security plus, no other experience, your cloud certification helping getting a SOC role.
So yeah, with or without a cloud certification, you can definitely get a SOC role. I mean, like it could potentially help if the company is specifically looking for an individual with a cloud certification. But at the same time, a company would still hire you with or without a cloud certification. Like when I got my internship, like I barely had any certifications. I only had a CompTIA A+ when I got my internship. And then when I got my first SOC analyst role, I only had the Azure Fundamentals certification. And so like don't over emphasize on the certification, but still great to have. Still great to have. So having an understanding of the cloud, if it's something that the job specifically requires, or if it's something that your desired role, if you're looking at job descriptions and you're seeing that in your area, or like the specific SOC role you're looking for requires some level of cloud understanding, Azure, AWS, GCP, it would be worth it to eventually get that cloud certification so that you can show that I have at least a basic knowledge of this cloud provider to be able to analyze logs and understand basic security concepts from this cloud provider. So yeah, it really depends.
Awesome. All right. Hopefully that answers your question, but thanks for that as well, Tom. So in the topic, or I guess in the spirit of standing out and being different, how much is, I guess you mentioned sharing on Twitter kind of helped you get a job as well. You mentioned the fact, I guess at least get opportunities, and so does LinkedIn and YouTube. You have a YouTube channel as well. So I'm curious about the whole personal branding side of things. Like, how important would it be for people who are trying to stand out in an interview to have some kind of an online blog or podcast or something or the other, like, or even a YouTube channel like the same way you have? Why? I mean, I guess would that help them stand out?
Yeah. So it could help you. I think it would help you. I think my YouTube channel has helped me a lot, like in terms of standing out, because like I've been able to share my journey, like from the start, like from when I had no certifications, from when I had just the A+ and I was just doing like labs, to how I got my internship, to all the certifications I'm doing. And your YouTube channel might not be like showing your journey. It might just be you doing labs or like learning new things. So I think having a personal brand definitely helps. Like and it helps in different ways. I mean, a personal brand could lead to connections and different things like that. But I think, just like I said previously, like having visibility enough to show like that you exist and you are a part of the community, you're part of the cybersecurity world, and your whatever kind of content you're putting out there. If your YouTube channel or your blog is just specifically cybersecurity based, or just doing labs from wherever, maybe try hack me, hack the box, or whatever it is, like it could definitely help out. Because I've looked at certain like job descriptions, and it's like experience from try hack me and hack the box is appreciated, right? Like they literally put it in the job description, like if you have experience from try hack me and hack the box is appreciated. So let's say you've been doing try hack me, hack the box this whole time, and you have like this amazing like rank or whatever. Okay, that's great, but can you, like, if let's say like the recruiter or the, because I think there's some recruiters and hiring managers that actually take the time to look at this stuff. Like I've actually been in an interview where the hiring manager was looking at my blog and like my home lab, like what I did. Like he actually put up the website and was looking at it, and we're having a discussion about it. So like if you have like a YouTube channel where you've gone through like different hack the box, like try hack me, and you're going through like, let's say let's say it's like maybe for a penetration testing interview. Like I don't really know too much about pen testing, but I say if, for example, they're able to see that could definitely set you apart from everybody else, because they can see that you can do this. Like everybody else might say, okay, I have these skills, I have this knowledge, I have these certifications, but they really don't have anything to show for it. But if you have that and they actually take the time to look at that, that could be what could essentially set you apart. So it doesn't hurt to have it. It doesn't hurt to do this. And if you enjoy it, it's even better, because like you're able to do what you love and then put it out there for people to see and to also learn from. So like enjoying it while you're doing it and just like putting it out there is just like, just do it. And it's just one extra step, one extra effort to make you different from everybody else.
Oh man, there's so much gems in there as well, because I think you touched on a really interesting point. Because as a hiring manager as well, when I'm looking for, I guess, a skill set and a resume, if someone has a YouTube channel, and not in particular, like I don't think I'm the only exception here, but a lot of people do want someone who's willing to go, because to your point, having a YouTube video or a blog or something or the other way, sharing your content and sharing what you're learning, it also shows you how passionate you're about the field as well. You know how a lot of people are, hey, how do you know you're passionate about the field? That's how you know you're passionate about the field, because
Hmm.
you have whatever you do on your day job or whatever you do from a study perspective, but you're still putting the effort to spend time on a blog or a video on YouTube or something or the other to go, I'm learning this and I'm going to document this so that at least others can see it as well. Not just,
Hmm.
and to your point, it just could not be from a perspective of, hey, I want to be starting out for a job, but could just be from a perspective. Some people learn better that way as well. And as a hiring
Yes.
manager, I'm looking at that going, oh my God, I can't believe Day does so much. Why aren't we hiring him? Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I can't speak so much from a hiring manager perspective, but I can speak from an interviewer's perspective about how that has helped me. Like, I've been in interview scenarios where, like I said, like the hiring manager, he pulled up my blog, and he was looking at like my lab configuration on there, and we're having a conversation about that. Like, number one, like having that, it shows like you're doing this, and secondly, it helps you like channel the interview to your own favor, because now you're talking about something you know how to do. So for example, let's say like I was doing like a configuration of like security onion, right? And the hiring manager likes security onion, and they're talking to me about, oh, how did you configure your security onion machine? What do you do on it? Like, how do you analyze? Like, just you're having a conversation about something you are very knowledgeable about because you've done it, and you're also like steering the interview in a direction that is going to be favorable to you because you're talking about something that you know. So like, it sounds like, I mean, even if you're not the best at security onion, it sounds like you know what you're saying. So it makes your chances better, and it's just an overall better. So yeah, it's I recommend it. I recommend it, especially like if you truly have the passion, because you could be I mean, some people do certain things for show, and you will easily get found out and get caught, like if that's the way. But if you truly have a passion for it, and you're actually putting this out there because you enjoy it, you like, people can hear it in your voice when you truly like something and are truly passionate about it, and it just makes a difference for you. So it just boils down to the point of what exactly is it that makes you different from everybody else, that sets you apart from the competition.
That's pretty awesome, man. I guess from an interview perspective, that's most of the questions that I had, and I think we've answered most of the questions that came in as well. But I'll definitely encourage people to kind of reach out to you and check out your YouTube video as well. I mean, this is kind of like the last section of the podcast, and this is kind of like the fun questions. I've got 3 fun questions for you, which are non-technical, just to get to know Day a bit more outside of the amazing SOC analyst YouTuber that you are. So first question being, what do you spend most time on when you're not working on, say, technology or SOC or threat analyst?
I recently started going to the gym, so I've been spending a lot of time at the gym. I go
All
to the gym.
right.
Yeah,
Right. So,
and
so next time I see you, Day, are you gonna be like broad chested with like biceps and guns and everything?
you bet, man. You bet, man. I'm
Oh,
getting
all right.
there, man.
I'm gonna look forward to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I'm
I'm
coming.
gonna look forward to that then. Next
Yeah,
question: what is something that you're proud of, but is not on your social media?
something I'm proud of is not on my social media. Um, hmm. I
It's
mean,
about
pretty
yourself,
much.
like something you're proud of yourself, I guess. About
Uh, Honestly, like my most of my proudest moments have really come from like my cybersecurity achievements, because of like how much like time and energy and effort I've put into it. So, and all of that is on my social media. So like that's what I can point to.
no, all good, all good. And the last question: what's your favorite cuisine or restaurant that you can share?
Cuisine or restaurant. So I'm Nigerian, so I eat a lot of Nigerian food. So like anywhere there's like good Nigerian food, yeah, that would be my favorite place. I mean, I don't have like specific preference. If the food is good and it's Nigerian and I enjoy it, I'm with it.
Wait, so what's your go-to Nigerian dish that you go for?
I always go for a fried rice and a fried stew. It's awesome with all the
Uh,
assorted meat. Yeah. That's my
well,
go-to dish.
I didn't get the recipe from someone then, or you YouTube the recipe for this one. We're in
Yeah.
lockdown here in Melbourne. But we do have a massive Ethiopian population here.
Mhm.
I believe Kenyan population as well. I need to find out about Nigerian population, right? Nigerian restaurants. But dude, thanks so much for coming in, man. I do appreciate this, and I love knowing a bit more about you as well. Or where can people find you who want to connect with you and probably get to know a bit more about a day, and maybe they may have a specific question about SOC and threat analyst, which they might want to reach out to you directly about. Where can they connect with you?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So I believe my LinkedIn is attached to you share it on LinkedIn. So you can find me on
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
in the show notes. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and my YouTube is Day Cyberwalk. So Day DAY Cyber CYBRWOX, one single word. And you can also find me on Twitter at Day Cyberwalks as well. I recently deactivated my Instagram, taking a break from that. So you can also find me on Instagram at Day Cyberwalks, but you probably wouldn't find me right now. So yeah, you can find me on there, my YouTube channel as well. Also, we can go to www.cyberacademy.com. That's my website. I have tons of resources on there, and I have a link to my Discord server on there. So definitely, I'm always on the Discord server. You can if you actually want to reach me like right now, just hop on the Discord server and ask me a question on the Discord server. Like I'm gonna answer you like right now. So yeah, and then my CyberSecurity Academy also has a YouTube channel, CyberSecurity Academy. So definitely check that out. So that's all of the places where you can find me.
Sure. And can you tell us a bit about the CyberSecurity Academy as well for people who don't know what that is?
So CyberSecurity Academy is essentially basically it's everything that I did not have when I was trying to get into cybersecurity. So my goal with CyberSecurity Academy, which I'm still kind of building right now, is to have like a resource hub and a community for people who are trying to break into cybersecurity, especially people without experience, like college students. Because I broke into cybersecurity at I was just right about finishing my freshman year of college. So I want to have like a resource hub and a community where I can provide all of the resources that I have for everybody that's trying to break cybersecurity, most especially college students, but also everyone else. Whether you're transitioning from another field or you're kind of already in the field or trying to move around. Like my goal is just to have a resource hub where everybody can find all the resources they need, and also have a community of people that are like-minded. So that's the goal of CyberSecurity Academy. We're still building it up. We're about 800 and something members in the Discord. There's a lot of plans I have for it, but still in developmental stages. But I'll definitely be happy to have anyone on there. I'm always willing to help, so definitely join us.
Awesome. I'll definitely recommend people check that out as well. And that's all we had time for today. But thanks so much for your time, Day. I really appreciate this, and I think I'm looking forward to the jacked up version of Day next time I have you on the show, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. No problem. Thanks so much. And for everyone else, I'll see you all on my next episode, which is this weekend. On Sunday, we're talking about application security analyst and application security engineer, how to become one. I'll see you then. But until next time, peace.